Welcome, my friends. Hello, hello, namaste. Here we are, 23rd of December, 24 hours after the great conjunction, the grand conjunction, and our solstice before that. We're all still here. We did well. The Earth didn't end. Humanity didn't collapse. We weren't taken out by a solar flare yet. So that's awesome, right? I know there's still some chaos going on in certain parts of the world. Certain parts of the world are still having plenty of opportunities to establish order amongst the chaos. What am I going to do about this friggin' exposure? I don't like looking like an alien. I don't look crazy enough as it is. Here we go. We'll try that. Curtains closed. A little bit more natural in skin tones. So yeah, it's Chat with Matt. Here we are, half an hour, hopefully in the bright light. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm in the I might just check. I always have this moment where I think, did I click on the right group as I was setting up the live stream? This is the nature of the mind lately, the instability of the mind. Yes, awesome. So here we are. I'm in the right group. It doesn't look like anyone's given. It says 3 comments. Oh no, that's my reply. I haven't got anything to go by. I've just got a couple of people commenting that they can't wait to catch the replay. So hopefully we can come up with some good content for my friends who are looking forward to the replay, or they'll be disappointed. We can't have that. Well, we can have that, but let's see. What can we talk about, my friends? Who's here? Hey, Sister Jane. Yeah, I'm open for business as per normal. Half an hour or thereabouts. Talk to me about whatever you might want to know. Any questions, any requests, any suggested topics. Happy to dance, happy to converse. I slept deep last night for most of it. Like the first 3/4, 4/5 of the night. Very, very deep sleep, unconscious sleep. And then this morning had a myriad of subconscious clearings, if you like, rather interesting projections in the subconscious mind in that dozy sort of state. I don't think I really need to speak to that, but it's just happening. There's a lot of clearing happening right now. That's all very, very good, very predictable, really, very understandable. So not to, if you're having similar instances of sleeping deep or not sleeping well, or sleep disturbed, or feeling really tired and lethargic and dense and uncomfortable in your body right now, that's all pretty understandable considering the energies we're in. So don't freak out about that. As always, allowance is the pathway forward. Acceptance and allowance. Accept what you're experiencing as not wrong, and then have allowance for the process, because the more that you can relax into being accepting, then the more easy the process will flow. If you didn't catch the call from yesterday, and I know there was a lot on offer from many facilitators, no doubt. If you didn't catch the call, then it is still there for you in the replay, just a bit further down the feed. I believe it was good. It was probably the most powerful I've ever felt, the language flowing through me, and certainly the after effects had me reasonably woozy for some time. I pretty much went straight into another group call, would you believe, about half an hour after I got off the call to that one. I was into the weekly meditation as part of the Montara Transformation Empowerment Support Community, which was beautiful. It was a little bit contrast, a similar theme, but definitely different energy brought to it, much more meditative, much more nurturing, perhaps. Not that the call that we did wasn't nurturing, because if I remember correctly, there was quite a bit of uplifting content in terms of the English that was interspersed amongst it, but from where I was feeling it, it was much more calm's not the right word. Confidence not the right word either. Soothing. It was more soothing for me in my body anyway. And that's all I've really got to go by. because I don't get given, I'm not one of these, I'm not clairvoyant, I don't have a spirit team that's talking in my head, I don't have any of that, if you're wondering. I don't see visions. No clairvoyance, no clairaudience. I'm a channel. The first Matt knows about it's when it's coming out of his mouth, usually, which can be a little bit shocking and a little bit unsettling. Too late to take it back. There's no filter here. I've already said it by the time I've had a chance to analyze it. At which point, it's done. There's the saying in the yogic scripts that there's several things that you can't undo. You can't catch an arrow that's already been fired, and you can't undo the words that have already been heard. There was another one that went with that. There was a little, thing. But anyway, and so the story goes, and what I was indoctrinated into is, be careful. Be careful about what you speak. Think carefully before you say it. And that's what us as channels have to get over. We have to let ourselves off that rule of thinking carefully before we speak, because we don't want to upset someone and we don't want to get into trouble, right? We don't want to jeopardize our relationships or even our standing with the authorities by saying something that we shouldn't. So we should think carefully about the implications of our words. Relatively good advice if you're trying to stay safe and play the rules. Terrible advice if you want to be a channel and speak the truth. If you want to speak the truth, you have to get past your mind, which is indoctrinated with a lot of not truth and a lot of fear. So the way we do that is we give ourselves permission to rant a little, to speak as if we are drunk. They say little children and drunk men speak no lies, because it's basically the truth. You speak what you feel in those states. Before we've been indoctrinated, and when you are drugged out of your indoctrination, to get there in a sober state is a little bit harder. But that's all it is. That's all it is. That's all I do. And sure, yeah, and maintain a connection with spirit through, my own spiritual practices, meditations and whatnot. That's important too. But plenty of people do that and still don't make great channels because they're still contracted around trying to get it right. And I've given up on being right. I've given up on being right. I'm happily wrong these days. Happily wrong. So, what would you like to know? Someone who's happy to be wrong as advice on. That should be my business card. Channel to the stars, happy to be wrong. What would you like to know? Yeah, what would you guys like to know? Because I'm happy to be wrong. Because wrong is just a perspective that is relative to the comparison that you're making, right? It's relative. Information can only be wrong based on relativity, based on, whatever we're judging it against, which might be, accepted scientific facts. That's a great thing to be wrong against. Plenty of great people have been wrong about that. Galileo was wrong about that when he said the Earth might be fucking spherical. Might be. I've got this interesting theory that maybe the Earth is a sphere and all of the heavens is we're going around the sun. Perhaps we're going around the sun and everything's not going around us. That was wrong at the time, So I'm happy to be wrong like that too. Just because it's wrong today doesn't mean it'll be wrong forever. And many things that are, very acceptable fact today will be proved wrong in the future. So, wrong and right is very, very relative to the consensus. We live in a democracy, which is an interesting idea where if the majority of people believe something, then it's true. That's democracy. Yeah, sure, we have this science comes into it as well and likes to be able to prove things based on what is currently measurable, which is also, a slippery slope because we're improving our ability to measure things all of the time, and we're realizing some of the ways that we were measuring things in the past no longer is valid, as we develop our wisdom through experience, we realize that a lot of the comparisons that we've made in the past aren't valid. And a lot of the things that we have assumed right and even prove to be relatively right, because they still work for us, we can see now that it was pretty much more luck that it's right than actual fact, because the facts that we were using to prove it was right have been disproven, but the concept still holds. So that's interesting, isn't it? So we have a concept that things behave in a certain way, and we use certain facts to prove that that's why it was. Now we've disproved those facts, but the concept still holds, right? So it still seems like from observation that things behave this way, but we've come to the realization that we don't know how. We used to think we knew how, but now through, quantum physics and the stuff, we realize, well, hang on, those arguments for why it's behaving that don't hold, but it's still behaving that way. So science is coming to this beautiful grey area now where we're understanding more that we don't understand. And even though we've struggled to understand for so long from our small egoic state of thinking that we need to understand in order to prosper from this world, in order to survive this world, more and more scientists, I think, are coming to the understanding that actually we don't know nearly as much as we thought we did. And the world of science is becoming much more grey, which is fantastic. And this is the dawn of the new age, where we're accepting the greyness and getting out of the black and whiteness of the shadow masculine rule-based authoritarian structures, right, where something is either right or wrong. So science is starting to evolve. It hasn't trickled down through the media, of course, because the media is still controlled by the people who are in the shadow masculine and wanting to control the population with diversity of creating division, divisiveness. And right and wrong works really well to propagate divisiveness. So, we're at an interesting crossroads. It's a very, very interesting time to be alive on this planet. Very, very interesting time to be alive on this planet. There's a whole heap of unknowns which we're having to find more and more allowance around and let go of the way that we've been indoctrinated into wanting to know how this is going to unfold, so that we can relax, thinking that we can only relax once we know how it's going to unfold, or at least know the mechanisms by which it's working. And it's plainly obvious to many of us that we don't know, and we almost can't know with our limited intellect how this is playing out. And we're getting back to, mysticism again, where we give it over to the magic or the grace of God, source, universe, which is beyond our capacity to understand. And we're finding solace and even faith in the fact that we don't need to understand, and that this mysticism, when surrendered into, is actually an empowered state, not a disempowered state. It's not a place of weakness. Religion has been portrayed, particularly over the last 50 years, as a weakness, right? To blindly believe that God will look after you is seen as naive in our modern thinking, or has been. But I think we're starting to circle around again to a deeper understanding that surrendered state actually functions, that we don't need to know how we are being looked after. The point is that if we believe we are being looked after, and believe so with a degree of deep confidence, then things turn out, right? That things work for us. So almost the scientific dogma of right and wrong and having to understand is starting to disintegrate in front of us. So we worked it up into a frenzy over the last 50 years or even 80 years, post-Second World War, where this scientific revolution has really taken society by storm, and religion has become more and more back-footed and degraded. And I do, and I'm not one to advocate for a lot of, religious indoctrination as it has been, because it has been very black and white as well. But the ancient schools of mysticism are experiencing a renaissance, I believe, and it's coming through not opposed to science, but actually with science now, as this quantum physics is becoming more and more accepted. We can see the mysticism in the mystery of how matter comes into form, right? How this world plays out, and the the unreliability of the rules that dictate how matter behaves is becoming more and more apparent. So it's exciting. I think it's very, very exciting from someone who's I'm an engineer, for freak's sake. I'm the last person you would expect to be embracing what I do now, but there you go. It's a funny old world. It's a funny old world. So that's it. Anything, my friends? I don't know, maybe I'm missing the comments. I am missing the comments. That's great. So sometimes it happens and I don't know why, but I don't see... No, I'm not going to bring Leslie on camera. You're safe. Cancel. That my phone doesn't show me the comments. So here we go. What have I missed out on? A whole heap of stuff. Sorry, friends. So let's try and... I have to click on here now to go back through it. Let's put that on pause. Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed the walk along the beach with me earlier, Jane. I haven't done those for a while. I made a point for a while back. I don't know if you guys can remember, and I think it might have been more in my other group than my big group, but I think I did it to my big group as well, the Bright Light Beings group, of doing a live stream every day just to get in the habit of expressing what's going on for me. And I haven't done it for ages. A long time, that means. So I just did it yesterday because I had the time as I was walking on the beach waiting for my car. Because quite often when I go for a walk these days, I don't carry my phone, finally. So I do when I'm going up the hill because I've got to time myself. That's a different kettle of fish. And sometimes I do a live stream from the top of the hill, but I haven't even done that lately because I haven't felt like it or there's been other people around. Anyway, Deb wrote in, Ms. Love, 7 minutes ago. I feel it's getting harder and harder for people to lie as each day goes by. It's like the inner being can't help let the truth out. Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it, Deb? I love that awareness that you have, and I think it's great that you're aware of that, and I think it's great that it's actually probably the truth. People are finding it harder and harder to live the lie and to actually maintain the BS stories in their head and even actually deceive people. One thing I've noticed is it's become more and more obvious when people are lying. That's very true, and I think that's happening collectively, not just Matt evolving his skills as a BS detector. I think the population is becoming much more attuned and much more sensitive to BS when it tries to get projected, right? So that's good. I like what you are saying about channeling for you. I often find what is truth in the moment when I'm talking to someone. Exactly. Didn't see it as channeling, but I think it is. Exactly, Leslie, exactly. That's all channeling is. And I try to tell people this all the time, not to put us channels on some sort of mega pedestal, because it's natural. Everyone does it. When you get in the flow of talking and you stop trying to get it right in your head, you are actually channeling your truth through you. And also find out this way what isn't true. Yeah, perfect. I love that. Jane finds the unknowingness exciting as well. Very good. Jill, responding to Leslie, that is so true. I feel I know things, but it's only when I talk a notion through with another being that I truly understand it. Wonderful, isn't it? That's also very true, Jill, and that leads us into another topic, which is the benefit of showing up and being willing to be a teacher or a facilitator or someone who's willing to share a concept. Because for me, and I think I've shared this a number of times lately, and I think I shared it on that live stream, that this whole, I think I used the word empire yesterday, right? Tongue in cheek. This whole empire that I have created has basically been around my desire to improve myself, right? A lot of people think that, it's incredibly altruistic, philanthropic to you know, become a teacher and share your quote unquote wisdom, which is, you know, I let that slip off, right? I'm not here to share my wisdom. I'm just here to share what flows out of my mouth. But yeah, I'll take it on, right? I'm sharing my wisdom, but it's not my desire to indoctrinate other people into the way I'm thinking in order to save them or in order to fix the world. I'm here sharing what's going on for me because I know and I really feel in my heart that it's the best thing I can do for myself, right? And ultimately, my happiness is number one. That's what's most important to me. And I know I'm not going to achieve my happiness by sacrificing myself to build an empire of service, right? It's not that way around. This is not me sacrificing myself to find purpose in what I'm doing based on the fact that I've built an empire and look at all the people I'm helping. That's not it at all. That is just happening consequentially. I'm showing up on doing these live streams and such, which is basically a big part of what has attracted a tribe around me, because I'm willing to share authentically and transparently what's going on for me as part of my therapy and as part of my evolution, because I realized that Matt was incredibly scared to share his thoughts for fear of getting it wrong, for fear of being judged, for fear of being seen as not good enough, right? My underlying motivation is to overcome my not good enough because it was ruining my life. It was ruining my life. It was keeping me very small, very insignificant, and not very happy. You know, how happy can you be when you don't feel good enough, right? How happy can you be dancing in coping mechanisms of not feeling good enough, trying to hide who you are for fear of being discovered as not good enough? How can you be a great parent? How can you interact with your kids? How can you be a great spouse and enjoy a loving relationship with someone when you're coming from a coping mechanism of not feeling good enough inside and trying to cover that over all the time, trying to cover your tracks, trying to live some sort of lie that you're projecting something that you're not, because you have this underlying bullshit. You know, it's bullshit. The feeling is bullshit. It's not the truth that I'm not good enough, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't feeling not good enough. And it's not that it doesn't arise sometimes still today, still comes up, right? This underlying feeling, oh, wow, I don't feel good enough about this. I feel like I'm being challenged here because, you know, and I feel scared. I feel resistant to doing this because I don't feel that I'm going to succeed. And not I'm scared of failure, but I'm scared of proving that I am actually not good enough, because that is an underlying vibration that no doubt I've been somehow indoctrinated with, programmed with, implanted with, or somehow inherited from the past. So this whole caper, I'm forgetting that I have to read the comments down here because they're not coming up there. So this whole caper is basically this whole, you know, me showing up as a facilitator, me showing up as a teacher, which is something I don't really, because, you know, in my mind, a teacher is someone who imparts knowledge. You tell people what is the truth and what's not the truth, and you give them practices so that they learn the truth, right? They learn the knowledge, they learn to apply the rules, right? A mathematics teacher by rote teaches people how to solve problems based on the accepted method for solving those problems. That's what they do. I'm not saying that that's wrong, because, you know, understanding how to manipulate numbers and to work out things has a validity, but that's the role of teaching, is to, you know, in a way, I know teaching is broader than that, but a big part of teaching, and a lot of what people get locked into with a teacher, is they tell you what to do. They teach you how to do it. As opposed to, you know, I like to think myself as a facilitator who shares wisdom and helps people to become empowered to access their own wisdom. I share my wisdom on how to access your own wisdom. And the wisdom that I share is not stuff that you need to remember and take on, but it's inspirations to help you evolve, right? It's ways of looking at things in different ways, rather than, you know, you should believe that, I don't know, God's, you know, the chakras, or the, you know, that something is something. That some bit of knowledge, you know, that the higher self is controlling the soul, and the soul is coming in through the body, and it's coming through this pathway and all of that. Yeah, I can talk about that shit as far as I know it at this stage, but it's probably going to change, right? Because it's not fixed information. It's an understanding that I have at this time, and I don't think it's that important. What's much more important for me is to help people come to a deeper sense of empowerment in themselves, where they can go into their own meditative states or their own moments of inspiration as they're walking along the river and find their truth out for themselves in that moment based on what serves them in that moment, right? That's much more important. So that people start acting from their heart, start being guided by their heart, start acting out in the world in a way that's inherently divine, right? Inspired through them, rather than this mental idea of I have to get it right, I have to get it right, I have to succeed at business or anything else. Jill wrote, doing what makes your heart sing, not sink. Exactly. So when we honor our hearts, when we honor our deeper wisdom and our deeper joy, you know, this idea of following your joy, a lot of people think it's avoiding hard work. It's not at all. Because a lot of people, myself included, actually find deep joy in what others would consider hard work, right? Staying up, writing emails even though you don't feel like it, or whatever. Might look like hard work. Doing back-to-back light language personal sessions with people might look like hard work, especially when you see me stagger out of the room, trying to ground myself back in and go eat something real quick before I float away. Might look like hard work, might look sacrificial, but it's not, because my heart's singing in doing that service. I'm connecting more deeply with myself and connecting and feeling more purposeful in myself, and my soul is singing, which, you know, comes through my heart. So the point being, you can't judge it from the external, my friends, whether you're being sacrificial or whether you're being in alignment with your true joy. So, you know, we talk a lot about, well, maybe we talk a lot about following your joy and following your heart. It doesn't mean anything specifically other than the obvious, to follow your heart, right? And no one else can judge that for you, and you don't need to worry about whether others think you are or think you aren't, because it doesn't matter. We're not here to impress anyone, is the words I just heard in my head. We're not here to impress anyone. Not your spouse, not your kids, not your parents. You're not here to impress anyone. Not God. You're not here to impress God. You can't impress God. Nothing you can do would impress God. God is impressionable. Beyond that, you know, beyond being impressed by anything, God fully understands the magnificence of who you are. And so nothing's going to impress God. God expects you to do magnificent things, right? That's not to say, you know, God's an ungrateful God, but in some ways God is ungrateful because God doesn't need gratitude. You know, God's the sum total of all of us. It revels in its magnificence. It is completely proud of itself, in my opinion, God. And each and every aspect of our divinity is proud of ourselves as well. We you know, humility is overrated. And, you know, a lot of people could do with a good dose of humility. It's all comes down to, you know, what aspect, where our ego is playing out. And our ego isn't wrong either. It's part of our divine being. It's just, you know, many times our ego is running in a coping mechanism of having to prove itself in order to feel good and to relax. We all want to just relax, really, into peace and to enjoy ourselves. Jill wrote, I've loved teaching therapies like Bowen and flower essences, and I've always thanked students at the end of a course because I learn from each and every one of them as I teach. Always learning. Exactly. Basically because every experience is valuable to us. And so, you know, it's the same with running a personal session. I'm incredibly grateful for everyone who turns up and, you know, engages with me and gives me the opportunity to do something I love doing, which is, you know, facilitating. So I'm incredibly grateful because every time I get to facilitate, I deepen my connection with myself. I move through my own stuff, and it's a marvelous experience. Let me just sort that out. Leslie wrote, getting it right. Can easily apply this to evolving. Worry about doing it wrong, even in the light of what is happening cosmically. That I will miss the boat. Yeah. Yeah, this is big. It's out there in society, right? This huge amount of, well, in society, in our spiritual communities, there's a lot of, I'll miss the boat, you'll get it wrong, you won't get into 5D, or you'll hold the earth back from evolving if you're not doing the right thing, if you're not meditating at the right time, if you're not holding the right intentions, if you're not doing the right ceremonies. It's BS. Anyway, I'll finish reading your question. Negative coming up along with the opening, old pattern. Yes, so this is the old pattern, Leslie, and exactly as you said, this is coming up to be released. All of this fear and stress around not doing spirituality correctly is a big part of what is releasing in this exact moment, in this exact astrology. These new beginnings arising out of chaotic old endings is the shadow masculine influence over spirituality is coming up. The rule base of doing it, this idea that you have to follow the discipline in order to succeed spiritually, that is ending. That is ending. And I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't do practices, but you should do practices from a space of love, not from a space of fear that if I don't do the practices, I won't evolve. Because that doesn't work so well, especially today, right? We've used that idea and, you know, frick, I've got memories of you know, the head monk in the monastery, you know, with a fucking stick hitting you if your head started nodding during meditation. The discipline to stay focused on God to reach salvation, right? From the fear of, if I don't do this, I will be lost, or I'll get hit by, you know, senior, is full on, right? And this is no way to have a loving connection with the God that we now desire. So we're overcoming that, and a lot of those leftover residues of these indoctrinations that we've experienced over the last few thousand years, many of us beings of light have put ourselves into religious orders and had to supplant ourselves, is that the right word, to the rules that came with that, to the discipline that came with that. It seemed better than being out in the world where we were, you know, fed to the dogs or burnt at the stake. So, anywho, we're in the process. So, coming back to the basic thing that we're telling everyone, including me, all of the time, which is what you are feeling is what you are releasing. As we're getting these opportunities to step into this more expansive expression of self, and the codes that coming in are higher and higher vibration. A lot of this, fear, I'm going to miss it, I'm not going to do enough, I'm not trying hard enough, I feel really tired, I should be up meditating. All of that BS that's going on in your head and in your heart and in your emotional state is coming up to clear. So what I'm feeling is what I'm releasing. Hey, Sister Shirley wrote something. Exactly. So all of that going on, instead of actually just being open to the conjunction happening now, you're supposed to get the conjunction right. You know, and there's nothing to get right. Shirley wrote, keeps flicking, how can I know for sure what my gifts are? No one knows for sure. I don't know what my gifts are. I know what I'm doing at the moment, and I know people appreciate it, so that's good. But ultimately, there's no for sure in anything. Shirley, just go with what you feel to go with. If you feel drawn to try something, then try it. The only way your gifts strengthen is when you take to them with confidence. So you don't know what your gifts are and then get confident. Well, I know my gift is this, therefore I'm confident to start using it. We all start very timidly with what we feel to do. And over time, we get more and more confident in it, and then we can start calling them our gifts. It doesn't happen the other way around. I started as a healer before I had any gifts. It's the truth, right? Yeah, I had some gifts, but I didn't recognize them. I didn't recognize the importance of my, where my meditation had led me in terms of the clarity that I came into space and then my ability to hold an open heart. I didn't think that my ability to hold an open heart was that special until I started working with people and people started complimenting me, started commenting on the experience they had lying on a table. Well, I just held my hands over them and held my heart open, right? It was my intention to hold them in a space of love with my open heart. I kind of knew how to do that, but I didn't really think of it as a gift. But it was only once I started doing that then I started finding that as I got more and more confident that people were having a good experience, as I basically just held them in that space, that I started being willing to talk to them, and I started realizing I had a bit of a gift to be able to empower people, to be able to counsel people. And then I realized that that was actually channeling. Now I had this idea, well, I'm actually channeling, I think. And then I started channeling light language. That just sort of arose out of me. It didn't come first, right? It just didn't like, I wake up and go, I've got the gift of light language, therefore I should be a healer, right? It didn't happen that way. I chose to be a healer. I chose to start helping people. And then my gifts started coming online as I got more and more confident that I was capable of helping people, right? So you have to put the horse before the cart. You don't need to know for sure what your gifts are. You just need to know for sure that you want to help people. And if you know for sure that you want to help people and who you want to help and how you want to help them, how you want to help them doesn't need to be specific, but what outcome do you want to get for people, then you start doing that, and you will soon find that you have ability to do it, and you are actually gifted in doing that. And that will keep developing. I am still developing, right? As I said, I think I said publicly on that live stream I did from the beach, as I said to another facilitator just yesterday, as I was doing a session with them, I'm only in my apprenticeship, right? You know, Matt feels I'm still in my apprenticeship. I only started speaking light language 7 years ago, right? I launched on the telesummits 5 years ago. I'm new kid on the block. I you know, in terms of running a business, and especially and building a quote unquote empire, my empire, it's going to be the joke of the month, I'm sure. Hopefully it doesn't become the joke of next year. But you know, in building my empire, I am still stumbling a lot, right? I'm still working out how to do this. I'm still, you know, influenced by all of this other BS and looking at how other people do it and trying to find my way, and always just cutting back to what do I often authentically feel to do, right? I'm still in my apprenticeship. I'm still in my apprenticeship with how I'm working with spirit in this lifetime, with this egoic self. So that's awesome, because I'm doing quite well, in my opinion. And if I'm only in my apprenticeship, imagine how good I'm going to be doing in another decade, right? So that's exciting. Yeah, so Shirley wrote, I feel like I should be doing something more apart from just raising my children and working my regular job. Trust, Shirley, that you as a being of light, in the way that you're raising your children and the way you conduct yourself in the world, is amazing. So if the feeling is coming from your heart and your soul that you desire to work in deeper ways with people, then follow that. If it's a mental feeling that I don't feel that I'm enough, therefore I should do more, then let that go, because that's not a great way to step forward into facilitating anything, right? If it's just a need to prove from the insecurity that you feel, and that insecurity is basically arising to release at this time. So it's very easy, as insecurity is arising to release, to try and fix that by proving yourself, by doing more. Oh, I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough, therefore I should start doing more. That's not great, right? Because that's a coping mechanism for what basically is arising to release. So allow yourself to appreciate that you as a being of light, and the intention that you bring into your child raising, and the intention you carry with you as you go about your day, working your regular job, interacting with people in the shops, and doing everything that you have to do as part of your daily life, is more than enough. Your beingness is what's important, much more important than your doingness. And when you really relax into your beingness and really appreciate yourself for who you be, then it becomes much more clear as to what to do that is aligned with your beingness, as opposed to trying to orchestrate what you do in order to find your being. We don't find our being through our doing. It's much easier to relax into stillness and find our being, and then do what is aligned with our beingness. So again, horse before the cart. Jill wrote, do you think we need to be vegetarian or even vegan to connect in these times? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I know many, many people who are very deeply connected, and it really doesn't matter what their diet is. You know, I've been vegetarian for 25 years. I've been vegan for some of that time. I'm not vegan at the moment. But it really doesn't matter. I think more and more people will be guided towards a plant-based diet. I think, but it's not important. It'll just feel more natural. That's my feeling on it. But again, horse before the cart. find your connection with yourself and then determine what diet best suits you without any guilt or shame or should. And you'll be on the right track. And of course, some people fluctuate, and that's entirely appropriate. A lot of bodies are changing, and a lot of bodies need different things at this time, and people will be drawn to different things. And there's a huge amount of influence in what diet actually serves people. And some people do very poorly on vegetarian or vegan diets, physically, and then of course spiritually. So there's no shoulds around diet. Not that there's any shoulds around drug use. I know some very spiritual people who still use recreational drugs, entirely appropriately. In my opinion, I don't use drugs. I've never been drawn to drugs, but I don't make drugs wrong, because I can see their value for some people. Huge amounts of insight and potential opens up through drug use. Do I encourage it? No, but I don't condone it either. I'm very neutral to it, just like I'm neutral to people's diets and other behaviors, right? Because ultimately it doesn't matter. All that really matters is your intention. All that really matters is your intention and your ability to relax into being authentic to your intentions. I've gone well over time just for a change. Thank you, Shirley. Shirley wrote, your light language is amazingly beautiful. Above, Shirley wrote, I was told that I don't feel worthy and I play small. So how do I open up and feel worthy and play big? You consciously choose to, Shirley. So if you know that you're carrying low self-worth issues, which I do as well, then you need to be aware of that and pick up when you are playing small and choose not to. Little by little. Don't throw yourself in the deep end where you're not going to cope, but little by little keep choosing to show up. Little by little keep speaking to yourself in kind words, the internal dialogue, and reminding yourself, start repeating a mantra, I'm choosing to feel worthy. Not I am feeling worthy, because that can feel like a lie and lower your vibration too much, but I choose to know my own worth. I choose to feel valuable in the world, right? Start repeating that to yourself. You won't feel good quite often. It won't make you feel worthy. Quite often it'll make you feel worse. But in that process, as you keep choosing to affirm what you are choosing, then you will come through the process of releasing those programs that are burning in your field for whatever reason, and you'll overcome it. And if you need more help, get more help, right? Use some light language processes, use services of healers, which might be me, might be someone else, to help you release the low self-worth issues. It's not that they're all going to disappear and then you'll feel confident in yourself and then I am still carrying low self-worth issues. It's still I'll call it a battle, but it's not really a battle, but it's still an experience that I'm having, and still an experience that I'm choosing to step out of, and I'm doing quite well. So the point is, we don't need to be rid of these things before we can prosper, before we can succeed, before we can be purposeful, before we can be happy. It's not about completion here. It's about the choice to keep stepping past it and the acceptance that it's a process, right? The more that you can accept that it's a process, the better off you're going to be. I'm going to read this one last comment from Haj. Hopefully I said your name appropriately, my friend. When I meditate, lots of sadness and loneliness comes up. I've been meditating for years now and not had any breakthrough, not feeling connection. What can I do? Relax. I spent 20 years, or at least 18 years, in meditation, much of which was very, very hard for much the same reason. I was feeling a lot of the density of the world in my meditation. That is a form of connection. It's not the connection that you are desiring. Relax a little bit around your practice, my friend Haj, and allow yourself to let go of judgment and to let go of expectation of what meditation should be. Open your eyes and allow yourself to accept that what you are feeling is what you are releasing, and you don't need to fight that sadness and that loneliness. Honor it as a process that you're going through, and as you do so, you will proceed through it much more effectively. That's probably, choose to let go of what you believe the connection should feel like. That's a big one. I could still say I don't feel connected, but I'm aware of what my connection is, and that changed everything. it was a choice, basically, to see the subtlety of what connection is. Ultimately, again, your responsibility begins and ends with the intention. That's it, Haj. It's not the outcome. You're not failing because you're not feeling connected. You're not failing because you're not feeling rapture and joy in your meditation. Allow your meditation to be guided by your intention, and accept whatever the outcomes are, and relax, relax, relax. Awesome. Thanks, Hajra. Thank you. So did Shirley and Jill. I am getting on. Oh, Jill wrote the same thing. Thank you again. Always feel judged by the in crowd if I admit I'm not vegan or even a raw food advocate. I'll keep intentions clear. Yeah, you know, I lived on raw food for 6 months. It almost killed me. It was okay at first, but then it wasn't. I still love raw food. Like, I'll still go for days, and if I'm living in Bali or something like that, or holidaying in Bali, then I'll go days on raw food, because it's you know, conducive. It's very easy in a warm climate and a high vibration, but dealing with other things and needing to stay grounded and all the rest of it in a cooler climate, it's just doesn't work, right? I've got a client who's, you know, breatharian, you know, lives on prana most of the time, but still needs to eat a little. And you know, she's currently trying to find a warmer climate because and to get out of the city, because to live as a breatharian in a big city in a cooler climate is nigh on impossible for anyone, especially starting out, right? If we're going to live on prana and use our breathing techniques and everything to sustain us and to connect with the light rather than take our nutrients from food. And yes, you can do this, my friends. I'm not talking of there's thousands, tens of thousands of people doing this worldwide now. They're not needing to eat because they're aligning with the vibrations that are coming in and using techniques to harness that, to sustain their physicality. It sounds like science fiction, it sounds like myth, but it's not. Yogis have been doing it forever but they've been doing it in the Himalaya where the vibration is very high. It's not particularly warm though, but you know, they're very, very special people. More and more quote unquote common people are turning to it in today's energies. So open your mind, and I'm not saying that we should, or you should, or it's a road to nirvana, because you have just as much challenge eating food as not eating food in terms of happiness and purpose, right? But if you're called to it, then it definitely is possible. And it will become more and more popular as time goes on. Anyway, my friends, that's well over time. I am going to call it quits. Much, much love to you all. Have a very Merry Christmas. I'll probably hop on Christmas here in New Zealand, which we sort of have Christmas first, so I can wish everyone else a Christmas as we're having Christmas before they have Christmas. I said all that. But anyway, have a Merry Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and keep just progressing through this time. It is an exciting time on the planet. Keep your eyes open, but choose not to be indoctrinated into the fear. Choose not to take it on. Choose to maintain an empowered attitude to what is unfolding in front of us right now. Laugh a lot, cry somewhat, and enjoy the experience. Much, much love, my friends. Namaste. Bye for now. Oh, third time lucky.